All right, hello everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm here with Candy Barone this afternoon. Thank you so much, Candy, for giving me your time to talk about what we've been going through for the last quite a few months now, and keeping a positive mindset while getting creative and pivoting in your life and your business. So thank you, Candy. If you want to just give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
Oh, absolutely. And first, thank you so much, Michele, for asking me to be part of your show. I think that's fantastic. I love what you're doing, helping people, think about pivoting and what's going on and how to look at that from a more positive, optimistic standpoint. Just to give you a little bit about my background, I come from 20 years of corporate. I was an engineer by background and moved into various leadership capacities. I have since left many, many years ago and started a company called You Empowered Strong, where a lot of what I do is to grow emerging leaders. And so emerging leaders in multiple capacities. And usually it's leaders who have influence over teams, communities, or organizations. So it's people that really are stepping in to activate sort of that one-to-many model and knowing that leadership is an opportunity to grow other leaders. And so I work with leaders who work to grow other leaders. And so I'm looking to create that impact. And I do that in a variety of ways, everything from, working with entrepreneurs directly for coaching, executive level coaching, business owners, corporate. I do trainings, I do retreats, I do masterminds, I do a lot of online as well. And then I speak internationally. So lots of different ways that I get to bring various messages to help people lead through challenging times and crisis and change and chaos and all the things we're going through right now.
Right. Yeah. So at the, I guess you, like myself, you had things planned for the rest of the year. 2020, we all set our goals for the year and had, I think you were speaking just before we got on record here, that you had live events that you had planned and you were doing speaking engagements and everything in person, in addition to the online space, of course. But, myself, I had vendor events that were planned 1, 2, 3, and really, although we knew that coronavirus, like we saw it was over in China, it came to Europe, and we saw things like that. I know myself, I didn't foresee it coming over to North America the way it did.
Yeah, I would agree.
It kind of always was something over there, and and it really shifted quickly for myself when everything shut down, and when the NBA announced that they were suspending the season, and then the NHL and baseball league followed suit and everything. It was really just one thing after another shutting down. That was, I think a lot of us found that we just didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Just so much change and so much uncertainty, and a lot of social media was getting so negative as well, that it was very easy to get sucked into that whole black hole of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, social media has that habit anyway. It does one of two things. It either highlights people's what I will call A track and doesn't show you what's going on in the reality of their life. So we tend to glorify and think people's lives is much better than what sometimes it actually is, or we do the opposite, where we amplify the fear, and it's the doomsday negativity spiral downward of, oh my God, the sky is falling, this is the end of the world. And it felt very much like an apocalypse type of energy that was coming through. People were losing all signs of being able to just weed through the information, because that's the challenge with social media, right, is to not see everything for face value and make sure that the sources are credible, make sure you're getting the right information. It's really easy to have things slant one way or the other, and people like to get charged in that. And so there was absolutely, especially towards the end of March going into April, there was a lot of what I will call amplified energy that was being triggered, and I think there was a lot of reaction versus what I'll call response to what was going on. And I think people needed the space to move from reaction to response in those cases.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were just so out of routine and out of everything for the first couple of weeks until for me, I found that the last 2 weeks in March felt like it was 6 months long, because everything was changing so much, and there was so much news and information coming at us. And as well as information around the virus too. That kept changing. So,
well, and it still keeps changing almost 5 months later. I mean, I went into lockdown March 13th, and the only reason I know that is I had a housewarming for my house I just moved into, and it was happening that day, and things were closed down the next day. And so, I mean, I'm approaching 5 months where I've been pretty isolated, especially since we've had some waves in my state here. That's a long, some of the months have flown by, and some of the days have felt like they've been eternity. And what's interesting is every day we get new information. We've yet to have consistent
right.
information. I think that's part of the challenge is, again, where are you getting the information from, and is it credible, reliable, and consistent? And what do you do inside of that? And so I think managing that space has been tremendously difficult for a lot of people, especially with all of the other variables that have been going on in the last 5 months as well.
Right. Yeah. And it's the same for us too. It's coming up on 5 months, or it would have been 5 months. Yeah. So we shut down around the same time as you're saying, March 13th. Like I remember that March 13th was when they announced the NBA was shutting down.
Yeah, and it was a Friday, and I remember it was Friday the 13th, and so it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, that was the day I went to Costco.
Yeah.
And stood in line with everyone else, and it was.
I was going to say,
crazy.
See, I ran an event. I actually had my last live event that morning, and had one person that didn't show up. And I purposely did it Friday the 13th because it's one of my favorite days, and 13 is one of my favorite numbers. Just because, again, I like to play against the fear people put out there, and I don't buy into the superstition around Friday the 13th or 13th being. So I tend to play on those because I'm going to disrupt. So we were disrupting. I had a really phenomenal half-day workshop, and then I had a housewarming that night. And so, yeah, very clear the date. It was Friday the 13th. And so ironic and, yeah, crazy to say the least.
Well, I mean, you must be, looking back, you must be happy that you had that.
I am, because I actually was able to get,
celebrate.
Yeah, I was able to get a workshop off and a retreat before COVID happened after moving into the new space, which was nice. Because, yeah, I moved into the new space to actually do my retreats, and now it's, I'm not able to do that right now. So it's interesting. I have a whole lot of space and not a lot of activity, but that's all right. It's all been good. But yeah, I'm very glad that I was able to get that last piece off, which helped me shift into some other things as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I was able to get a photo shoot done on March 10th in person, which was great because I was in the middle of doing some new branding and messaging and things like that. So I'm thankful that I got that done, because up till now, I wouldn't have been able to get it done. I think my photographer is starting to see people now, but yeah. So I think for a lot of people, they took the time to get, we're all over the place, and then got back into their routines. And it was really key, I think, getting it back into a morning routine to get you in the place of, whether it's affirmations, meditation, something to set the tone for the day and getting ready for the day, as opposed to staying in your pajamas, which was very tempting to do at the beginning too. So
absolutely. And I mean, I am all for, and I have personally, I've given a lot of freedom in the framework. Like I like the flexibility in the framework where I've adjusted what time I'm getting up and things like that, because but I am still very adamant how you start your day and how you end your day is absolutely critical. And so, the morning, it's all about how are you creating an opportunity to activate your mind, body, heart, spirit. And so you replenish, you allow yourself to rehydrate, you're allowing yourself sort of wake up, your cells to wake up, and then you move your body and you set your intentions for what you want and how you want to be during that day. And that, I don't care what's going on, that's so critical that we give ourselves that space. And at the end of the day, we give ourselves time to unplug. It gets really easy to get sucked into all of the social media and the things going on. And how do we shut that down? How do we unplug? How do we reflect and rest and allow ourselves space to say, you know what, today was a good day. Things could have been better, and I'm okay with completing today so that then I can get rest, because I think there's people that have been falling into cycles around not having such clarity in their morning and the end of the day, but then they're not getting restful sleep. And so now they're all feeling out of sorts with everything going on. And it's really easy to have one day blend into another day, blend into another day. In fact, we've had a joke. Is it Saturday, Monday? We're like, it's day. It doesn't matter. It's just day. There's no, you know, and so to give yourself some ways to say, what can I do? Maybe today's a day that I just take care of myself. Maybe today's a day that I am still being mindful about what that means for you, what would be fulfilling for you, and then giving yourself permission at the end of the day to kind of assess, how did I do? Where did I really show up today? Where did I kind of not? And but really having what I call the bookends on your day is really critical. Especially when you're going through things that put you in kind of that tumultuous change and chaos. It gives you some sense of grounding and feeling centered inside of it.
Right. Yeah. And I found the same thing myself. The days were blending into the next, and didn't know what the weekend didn't feel any different. I think with kids being home from school too, it's for people, and people are working from home, there's no distinction between home and work, and so that, you know, every day was flowing into the next. And I think what you're saying is great advice for people, because the fact is that we have a choice on how we see what's happening. We can't do anything about the pandemic. We can't do anything about what's open, what's not, what we're required to do to be safe, you know. So we have the choice though on how we respond to what's happening and what we do with it, which is what this has really given us a gift to sit back and look at how we were living our lives before and what's important to us.
Yeah, and I'm really clear. I've found, because a lot of people, everybody asking, how you doing? And I agree with that statement so much about it being a gift. I think one of the things I've done, one of the things I've reset or used as an opportunity, because it presented and it showed up. So a lot of it is to respond to what's presenting right now. And one was people needed help from a resiliency standpoint. And I talk about and teach resiliency from a very different place than most people do. And getting back into the space of recognizing the opportunity we've been given. In fact, I did a talk for a company a couple weeks ago, and they brought me in and they're like, okay, well, great. You're going to be talking about how to get back to normal. I said, oh, then you're not going to like my talk, because I'm going to talk about why going back to normal doesn't serve us. We've created this ultimate 4-letter word, which is I'm so busy. My life is so busy. And we've been on this hamster wheel where we're going. And the gift right now is creating that pause to reflect on not only what is really important for you in your life, what is most meaningful, what's fulfilling. It moves us out of that always trying to accomplish, always trying to achieve, and moving more into what is fulfilling, what is joyful, what is really meaningful in our life. So it gives you time to really assess that. You can build deeper relationships. It's interesting who I've been building deeper relationships with versus maybe my circle of friends who I always thought I was so close to. So you have an opportunity to lean into things differently. I've done so much restructuring and resetting in my own business, and I've had a lot fall away that I wouldn't have had the space to clear out things that actually I didn't realize were such dead weight for me to move to the next level and me to be more expansive. So all of that's a gift. And then being able to be in this house before, if I was still in the apartment I was in prior, it would have been very different, but I'm surrounded by trees and nature and the perfection of what is around us. And to be able to slow down enough to breathe that in every day, I think to go back to whatever normal was is doing us a disservice, because it puts us right back on that treadmill of busy and being busy right for the sake of busy. And not only do we realize that there's a lot of material things we don't need right now that we thought we needed, we're also realizing there's a lot of things that filled up our calendar we don't need either. And that there's a more purposeful way to engage and live our life. And so my biggest hope is when we do shift out of this is that we create something entirely new and we stop trying so hard to go back. And we remember this gift that we've been given, because I do have a, I know the habits of humanity. I don't want us to get back in the cycle where we just get caught up in being mindless again. Because right now we've been given the gift of mindfulness and purpose and intention and just really connecting to ourselves and others. And I hope that we will carry that forward in a very new and powerful way versus how disconnected and disengaged we were before.
Right. Yeah, totally. Everybody was always racing around, like you say, on the hamster wheel, but also you'd be thinking of the next thing you had to do, the next appointment, or rushing home to get the kids to take them somewhere, rushing here to your next appointment or your next whatever is happening the next day. And you never actually had the time to sit and be present, never had the time to sit with yourself and reflect. And now we have that time.
Yeah.
We've been given that time to, and as for always I'm busy, that was always the case. And what were you busy with, really?
I really consider that to be the ultimate 4-letter word in the English language. I teach people around that. I have people say, Candy, you're so busy. And I'm like, nope, I'm very full. There's a big difference in having my life feel full than feeling busy. And it's not a word I choose to keep in my vocabulary anymore for the reason of it doesn't serve in any way, in any capacity.
No, right. It doesn't at all. Yeah, it's and as for the trees and nature and everything like that, people, when everything externally was shut down, all the distractions have been removed and everything was shut down. So you really didn't have anywhere to go other than to get your groceries and medication or anything like that. People were taking the time to go out for walks and appreciate nature. And people who didn't, who would rush by different things and not notice because it was always, you're always rushing to the next thing, took the time to appreciate nature and actually notice the trees and the squirrels and the animals and the birds chirping and everything like that. And again, it was something where before we would say, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time to go for a walk. And again, you have the same 24 hours in the day and everybody has the same 24 hours in the day. Exactly. It's what you choose to do with it and how you choose to use those hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's been a big, I think also people are journaling more. Mm-hmm. I think that has, between journaling and meditation, people are embracing that. But really, like, I think going back to what you were saying earlier about, if you need a day, you take a day for yourself, because the emotions have been all over the place. It's really been kind of a roller coaster where we started out, of course, fear, and whatever. And then maybe you were feeling better, but then something would trigger you and you get back down feeling, not so good.
We've definitely had cycles where emotions, I mean, that's one of the things I teach in resiliency is how do you regulate your own emotions? And so to your point, the journaling, the meditation, the walking in nature, people need to learn how to connect to themselves before they can learn how to connect with others. And so it's that idea of putting your oxygen mask on first. And one of the things, I talk a lot about people around their Wellth, which is WELLTH, and it's the 5 buckets of wellness that we have been given the opportunity to really look at what it takes to fill those cups so that they're full or overflowing. And that's your cup of spirituality, your emotional, your mental, your physical, and your energetic cups. And so how do you understand? You need to spend some time with yourself to even know what that looks like, to fill those cups and to be in a place where you feel like you can be full or overflowing, because it's only then that you can truly be doing the work that is your work to do, connect with your family in the deepest way. And so the more people are leaning in and giving themselves that space to rest, to be still, to just stop doing all the time and allow themselves to just be responsive to what presents, the more they are able to understand what they really need in those 5 areas. That when I always say when people know their worth, then they create exponential wealth. And so then you can keep replenishing and purposing and overflowing that energy so that then new things have an opportunity to show up. And for many people I've talked to, this has been such a creative space where they're like, oh my God, I forgot I love to do that. Or wow, I could reset and pivot my business this way. Or wow, these are the clients I really want to work with. Or man, I really want to do this in my life now that I got laid off from my job and I don't have, there's just an opportunity to really dig in from a different perspective and ask bigger questions and spending some time, because most people, the biggest disconnection they have is with themselves. There's a great line in a video I show in a lot of my trainings that says, we spend so much time studying other people that we don't even know who we are. And we're so worried about pleasing other people, being accepted by other people, that we've not learned, and use a Brene Brown sort of space, we haven't learned how to belong to ourselves first. Right. That COVID right now has been the biggest gift for people to find that path back to belong to themselves.
Right, yeah. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about everybody talking about when we get back to normal. That was the talk at the beginning, and like you say, we don't want to go back to normal. We don't want to go back to the way we were, because that is not sustainable. Living like that, it's
not living. It was just existing.
Yeah, it's not living. It
wasn't really living. We're being given an opportunity to remember what it's like to live, to identify what really matters, and it's not all the BS we keep telling ourselves.
Right, and also what I've seen is people really coming together as community, and everybody reaching out to their clients at the beginning, and just checking in and asking, how are you doing? Whether it is, clients, family, friends, everybody was reaching out more to talk to people that they hadn't, weren't speaking to all the time, and things like that. So it's as well, there's been a lot of collaborations I've seen too. People are getting together to work on different things, and I think that's something we're going to see going forward as well. It's just a whole sense of community, and the fact that we are together in this. The fact is that this has affected the whole world. Mm-hmm. And it really doesn't matter if you have money or not. You're still being affected by it. So we're all here to support one another.
Absolutely. And I think, the whole way we work and engage with each other and build community and do collaborations, I think all of that, there's so much opportunity for that to shift. It's already been shifting. And to your point, nobody was left untouched by the effects of what's happening right now. One way or the other, somehow this has affected you and changed you. And so it's not as if it was isolated to a group or to a class or to an economic status or to a political affiliation or any of that, or even a geographical location. It has been a worldwide pandemic that says we're all in this. And at the end of the day, humanity has an opportunity to raise itself up, raise its own consciousness, raise its own level of leadership, and step forward to say, so what does this mean for us moving forward? We don't need to buy into all of the stories and the programming that we've been given around, well, this is how a business has to operate, or this is how we go to school, or this. Now there's these openings that say, imagine if we could create a different way that was more meaningful, that was more interactive, that was more engaging, that was more purposeful, that was more fulfilling, that was more, and you can add in all those words, right? And now we've been given an opportunity to, everything we've ever thought imploded in the last 5 months. Yes. And so everything from a systemic standpoint, from an education standpoint, from an economic standpoint, from a business standpoint, from a family standpoint, you name it, it's completely been blown up to where we can look at something entirely new and start with a blank sheet of paper or blank slate and say, imagine what we could create from here. And so if we can look at this as an opportunity to create versus, oh my God, how do we get back to normal? Let's look at, forget the old didn't serve, and it sure doesn't serve anymore now that things have imploded. Let's look at what can we create as a result of what's been given to us, what's been exposed to us, what's been educated to us, Man, there's like no holds bar right now. I get really excited thinking about that. I know a lot of people don't, but I get super excited when I think about the possibilities of what we can create as a result of COVID versus trying to put everything back in the box it was in before.
Right, right, true, totally. That's totally true. Because if you think about what, like you say, imploded and what got shut down, and the fact that Las Vegas was shut down, just flip that around and think of what you can create. Because if it could be shut down in one day, like the things were, then why can't you get together and all of humanity together, and we can create something new. It's time for new beginnings. It goes back to looking at corporations and how, I know you said you came from a corporate background. I actually did as well, doing something totally different than what I'm doing now. And I just remember it would always, anytime you might question a process, the first answer was, well, it's always been done that way.
Yep.
And this is giving us the chance to look at everything from a totally new perspective, like you said, new beginning, and create something new, something that serves us well, because a lot of these things were not serving us well. Continuing to do everything just because that's the way it was done before, especially with technology, and just thinking of this time that we've been, everybody's been at home, and the way the use of technology has skyrocketed, and everybody has been forced to use it, even if they didn't want to. And doesn't matter how old you are. That used to be the excuse. I'm too old, I can't learn this kind of thing. Well, the grandparents have been embracing FaceTime and Zoom and whatever.
Right? Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't see the grandchildren. Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the things I used to say when I was in corporate, when people would say, well, they're never going to do this new system. I'm like, not until you let go of the old one. As long as they know that they've got the old way as a crutch. And that's the thing, when you realize what happens when you don't have the old way as a crutch, and you're given a blank slate to think and be resilient and get creative and look at the possibilities, it's amazing what the human brain can come up with and what we can move forward. We hold ourselves back thinking, well, this is the way we've always done it. This is the system. This is the process. And, which people hate when I say that to them. That's my favorite response when people get all, I'm like, and? Because yes, and all that's great, and does it still serve us moving forward? And if not, we have a huge opportunity to change that. And so I love that, because I think, you hear that constantly and you get caught up in that space, and it's like, the rules can be completely rewritten. And to your point, if we can close it in a day, imagine what we can build in a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why we don't want to be rushing back the way there are still people that I've heard still saying, oh, when we get back to normal, and who are still wanting to go back to that. And I don't think that's not the purpose here. That's not going to serve us. It's like you say, that you don't want to get rid of the old things. Adapt new things if you still have that old one there.
You got a crutch.
But once it's gone,
moving forward and still holding on to your crutch, very rarely. It's why they finally get kids to get rid of their blankie and their binky and whatever else kind of name they call things, or pacifier in their blanket. There are reasons we need to let that go, because if you're still holding on tightly to something that you've outgrown or doesn't serve, it's really hard to create new when you've got something that's holding you back as an anchor or a crutch.
Yeah. And that's what's happened from a bigger standpoint, global standpoint. Yeah. So I guess the other thing is that you're in the U.S. too. And
I am. I'm in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. So you've had waves there that have.
We're going through a pretty big wave right now. We had our state almost fully opened up, and now not so much. So it's been interesting. I personally have been isolated for the last 5 months. So.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people are just, embracing that, and like, goes back to your point. Let's take this time to figure out what, looking at new things that we can create. And so many people have, been rethinking their business during this period of time, and also looking forward to see what interests they have and what they want to create going forward. And maybe what they were doing before is not what they should be doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, so this has really given us the time to figure that out. And going back to the points you were talking about with what we filled our time with, just going to a lot of events. The people that I've spoken to have said already that they're going to be rethinking the way that they do things. And why do you necessarily have to go meet somebody for a coffee to talk to them and meet them and learn about their business and things like that, when you can do it over Zoom or some other technology? Right. And not spend half an hour driving here and half an hour driving here. And I think that corporate is going to do the same thing. Start looking at.
Yeah, it's amazing how many presentations I've given for companies that at one time would have said, well, if you can't get you here and have you on this date and fly you, I'm like, it's interesting how well we can do business now and how I can make it interactive and do different things. I mean, again, it's changing our whole mindset around what's possible.
Right. Yeah. And there is so much opportunity here and so many things that are possible. Yeah. And I'm just really grateful that we do have this technology, because if we were if we were isolating for months and didn't have this technology to talk to people, it would make
it would be a whole different experience for sure.
Yeah, it would be. But this has really opened up a lot of opportunities again for people to embrace it, and people that I know that run networking groups that were having in-person events have now come online, and they're doing their networking events online, and now they've created that, and they'll just continue to do that even when they do start having live events again, but just have both of them. Yeah. So all right, well, thank you so much for your time. It was great to talking to you. In terms of your business, you are like you were saying that you had the combination, and of course everything has changed, but now you're online. And what do you have any programs coming up or anything like that
I do, actually. I've been running a couple programs, again, helping people learn some of the skills and how to flex their muscle around resiliency. Been doing a couple other things, and you can always see that on my website, whatever. I'm also looking at some of my larger things that are my retreats and even my certification program to teach people to do what I do as a facilitator, coach, trainer, how to do that from a virtual standpoint, and then back that out at the end with something that we can do in person, where usually it's the flip of that. So several of those things are going. And then I recently started a new community on Facebook to lean into some of the social injustice issues and a lot of what needs to be amplified around Black Lives Matter. And so that's been taking up a lot of my focus right now, is helping people understand how to unpack racism and unpacking their biases. And so I have a community that within less than a month is almost 900 people strong, and people that want to engage in that conversation. And so again, it's a pivot, right? There's things I was doing in my business from a diversity angle, and even in small spaces on a racism level, but not to where I'm doing that now. And so that pivot has been, I would not have been able to be present and playing in that space as big as I am right now had COVID not happened. So the gift in that is that with being able to move some things out of my business, I now have the attention to be able to move some things forward in a different space that really is something I'm passionate about, something I believe in, and helping others have and lean into that courageous conversation. So I always tell people, if you want to see what's going on, you can find me on, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube are my big platforms, LinkedIn as well. And then, or go to my website, which is just honestly candybarone.com. So it's pretty easy to just find me and see me. Always got some different things going on depending on what's presenting and what people need, but there's, ways and stuff and things.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I will, I'll put your information up underneath this interview as well with your website and that community as well. I will we'll put that that up for people that are
for people
interested in
that
joining
truly
that
want
as
to
well.
connect conversation and are willing to step in front of their biases, and we all have biases, and to take the responsibility to unpack what we've been programmed into as our society, as our system that operates around us. It's present. Really powerful what this group has been leaning into in the conversations that we're having. There's a ton of, and some people are just sitting there sort of learning. So there's a lot of tools and resources to educate, but I highlight anyone that really wants to be in that conversation or wants to learn and be educated so that they can at least have different conversations, perhaps with their friends and their family. I highly encourage that you join. It is for people though that want to really be, engaged in that space and want to learn and want to take that forward in some capacity, even if it's just in checking themselves to say, am I stepping forward and taking greater responsibility? And am I aware of where maybe some where racism is affecting my life and where I'm getting, where I'm in that cycle. And so, like I said, I'm blown away with the community there. And it's called Unpacking Racism. So I welcome anyone that wants to be part of the conversation.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's great. I will put that up as well. And again, thank you so much for your time. And let's just hope that we all come together as a community as we have, and for the better of humanity, and that we together, like you said, we're not going back to the normal. We don't want to go back to what we had before, and let's go forward into something great and create our new world together.
I love that. So thank you, Michele, so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.